Good morning, good morning. I'm Reverend Karen Einhaus. I'm the spiritual leader of this amazing community, and as you have heard, today is Good News Sunday. Yeah. So I want to welcome everyone who's here for the very first time. Thank you for spending part of your morning with us, and you picked a really, really good Sunday. Of course, I say that every Sunday, so... So Good News Sunday, this idea was born over lunch. And I see a couple of the beloveds who were at lunch when it just happened. And I said, there's so much good news in the world. And they said, oh yeah, I have this to add and this to add. And before long, we were engaged in this conversation of sharing good news. And that's when the idea was born to have a whole Sunday morning dedicated to celebrating and recognizing and being with good news for ourselves and those around us and even people we don't even know. So that is what we're going to do today. We are going to deepen into one of the tenets of this teaching, which is oneness. Oneness, that we are all truly of the one power, the one presence. We call it God, we call it spirit, source, first cause, whatever word works for us, right? And I often talk about this concept when I teach a prosperity class, because it's so important when we talk about prosperity and abundance to become very clear and aware that we live in an abundant universe. Do you agree with that statement? We live in an abundant universe. If you're not sure, think about the sand corns on a piece of beach that you love. Yes, we live in an abundant universe. And so whenever we teach prosperity, one of the ways we are doing it is helping each person to let go of this idea of separation, that I end here and you begin there, feeling into that we truly are all one. And if we live in an abundant universe, we all have access to that abundance. And it is the same with love, with peace, with grace, with good news, with the blessings. And so that is what we are going to practice today. And I just imagine that you are yes for practicing it because you came through those doors, you turned on your computer. I'll take that as a yes. Anybody opposed? Like you would raise your hand on that one. Right. So I had the pleasure this whole week, I had put out some invitations to share good news with me, and I was blessed and flooded, really, with good news this week. People adding a puppy to their household, people connecting with the yoga community and being inspired to practice more. People with hearing the voice of the divine in the midst of losing everything. And someone shared that after 21 years, her husband is still around, although he had been given a diagnosis of about 5-year life expectancy 21 years ago. Good news! Good news! And so, what I come here to share with you and to inspire all of us about is, let us practice what Susan so wonderfully talked about, Freudenfreude. Easy for me to say, right? I know. You are probably a little bit more familiar with the term Schadenfreude, which is also a German word. Now, Schadenfreude means taking delight at somebody else's misfortune. And we all say, oh, who would do that? Who would do that? And then there's that little nagging thing in the back of my mind that brought up a memory where I was fully engaged in Schadenfreude. Not something I like to think about, right? But what the talk today is also about is, as we explore the benefits of being elated for somebody else's joy and somebody else's success, we also are invited to be honest with ourselves. Are there moments where somebody else sharing their good fortune brings up within us a feeling of like, I wanted that. I wanted to experience that. You know? I have that sometimes. There you go, it's out there. You heard it here. Sometimes that happens. So today, I want to share some ideas on how we can be with that very natural way of wanting, of having traces of envy or jealousy, and how we can overcome that authentically. And not in a way of like, yeah, I am always 100% happy for everybody else's fortune. Because that's not what this teaching is, right? We always talk about this is not a teaching of denial. This is a teaching of wholeness, of being able to loving those parts within us which we don't deem perfect. So that's what we're going to do. You in? Great. Well, we already learned a German word, right? Freuden. Now we're going to learn a Sanskrit word. And the Sanskrit word that we are going to learn is somewhere here in my notes. I don't have glasses on anyway, I can't read it, so I don't know where I'm looking. But it is mudita. It is mudita. I think that's how it's pronounced, mudita. And it is the same thing as Freudenfreude, but it is a Sanskrit name, and it is one of the 4 practices in Buddhism, together with compassion, loving kindness, and equanimity. And mudita is the 4th one. So what does mudita mean? Well, it means exactly what Freudenfreude means. Something good is happening in somebody else's life, and I am invited to feel that uplifting, that joyful feeling within myself, even if it has nothing to do with me. Let's take a breath. So we're going to practice. And some of these things are going to be easy, right? It is easy for us here in this loving community to be happy for somebody else, to experience bliss in their family, for example. And then there are moments when we are perhaps in a challenging space in our own family life, that seeing somebody else's joy brings up wounds and hurt. And so what we're doing today is just practice. And so we have a couple of good news that are shared, and we're going to watch them. And what I invite you into is to just see and feel what takes place within yourself. Beautiful. Now that felt good, right? That felt good to see beloveds enjoying the little and the big things in life. And I was so reminded how often we talk about that in the divine, there is no little or big. That is very much a human concept that we make up, that we say something is little and something else is big, experiencing bliss while being with a family, you know? You place that somewhere on that continuum. And then there are the beloveds here in this community who do not have their family close by, or who have challenges in the family dynamics. And so if any of those pictures that you just saw brought some of those things up, we want to be mindful of that and not glance over. This is not an idea of everybody is just going to be happy all the time. We want to allow ourselves to feel those feelings too, because only if we are brave enough to feel the plethora of our emotions are we able to walk through it and heal those that are ready to be healed. So let's look for we'll look at a couple more of these photos that were shared. Yeah, Pride Night. Happily retired. I'm glad somebody's loving this record heat. It is practice. It is practice to look at some good news in the world, and even if it has nothing to do with us, to allow ourselves to be lifted up. It is practice, and even more practice, when somebody shares some good news, and on the outside, we are like, I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy that worked out so brilliantly for you. And on the inside, we might feel, when I was in a similar situation, it didn't work out for me that way. My beloved didn't have the miraculous healing. That relationship did not continue. And so we practice. We practice and we practice and we practice. And one of those practices is what is called a metta meditation, M-E-T-T-A, metta meditation. And we're going to do one right now. Because in order to cultivate being a great recipient of the good news and to feel the benefits of good news in our own life, we have to practice receiving them with open hearts and open minds. So if you're comfortable, I invite you to close your eyes, maybe soften your gaze if you don't want to close them. If you are online, if you're in a safe space to close your eyes, please do so. And we start off with just being aware of our breath. And on the next inhale, we say silently to ourselves, may I be filled with loving kindness. And now we allow the image of a beloved, somebody that brings us such joy. We allow the image of them to rise in our mind's eye, and we say to them, may you be filled with loving kindness. continuing to breathe, we allow that image to melt away, and in its place comes an image of somebody we really don't have any positive or negative feelings about. We're neutral, just allowing that person to rise up, or that animal, or that situation. And again, on the inhale, we say in our mind's eye, may you be filled with loving kindness. And allowing that image to melt away. Now, we're going to allow an image of somebody we're having difficulties with to rise up within us. We all have someone, and we just allow that image to come up, and with the same feeling tone, we say in our mind's eyes, in our mind, may you be filled with loving kindness. Noticing our breath. And allowing that image to melt away. And we allow an image of the world, of the universe, to come up. And again, may you be filled with loving kindness. And allowing that image to melt away, coming back into this room, feeling into just the way our body is feeling. This meditation that has been around for many, 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 many years helps us overcome our deeply held opinions and judgments. Because, beloveds, that is really what gets in the way, isn't it? Our judgments that I don't have enough, or that hasn't worked out for me in my life, or that is not an experience I had. All of those things are going to be held with compassion and kindness. And when we're able to do that, somebody else sharing good news allows us to not only be on the surface, I am so happy for you, but to truly feel it on the inside. You know, it reminds me of Maya Angelou. And she talks so much about this being human, this human experience. And she says, if the storyteller is telling the story right, we feel that we are a lot more alike than unalike. And we feel that this humanness comes with stumbling and falling down, and we all have gotten up again. We have all been awakened. I love that. I love that. I love thinking about that quote, especially in moments when I feel like I am falling down, when I feel like I was not quite as present, as available to somebody else's good news. Now, what do we do with all of this? Did you feel a difference when we went through that meditation? Just that beautiful way of coming into our center? Or let's look at some more good news and see how it feels. Good news. Good news are everywhere. And like we always say in this teaching, that what we focus on expands, right? What we focus on, where we place our focus, the energy moves towards. So how could we all cultivate being aware and being inspired by good news for this coming week? Any ideas? This is your moment to speak up. How can we do it? Share good news, yes. What else? Ask about them? Ask for good news? Yes. That worked wonderful for me, I have to say. I asked for good news and you sent them. And you participate. There were so many more pictures and stories that came forth. Right? Another way is truly to become quiet and deepen within ourselves. If something has risen, if something has come up, where you're like, yeah, when that happens, I don't feel Freude. I feel like, not that again. I don't want to hear that again. Because it reminds us of something that still hurts within. If you have connected with something like that, a wonderful, wonderful way of working on that is to reach out to one of our practitioners. To reach out to somebody who is not so close that they can see the overarching truth. That we truly all are one. That we are all lights on our way to know more, see more, feel more, reveal more of the divine in every interaction, in everything we do. We can be a stand for believing that the power to create a universe that is for us and is the way we want it to be, that power truly is within us. Now, what is it that St. Francis of Assisi says? He says, go out and preach the good news, and only if necessary, use words. Only if necessary. You know, where we can give so much is in simply being willing to be present with the delight that we have experienced because we have leaned into the divine, and to share that. I am so grateful we are on this journey together. We are here to recognize that we are a lot more alike than unalike, and that we can help each other when we fall down and stumble. Go forth and experience good news. Thank you. And now we do what we love to do here. We are going to anchor this truth in prayer. I invite all of the practitioners, ministers of this teaching to rise and hold the consciousness with me. And we just breathe into the goodness that is present right here, into this experience of love, of loving kindness, of ease, of grace, of the eternal good news that is Spirit itself. How grateful I am to know that every person within the sound of my voice is invited to step into this realization of goodness, of grace, of peace, of love, of harmony, of abundance, of joy. For it is truly available to all at every moment, because the divine is omnipotent and omnipresent. It is right where we are. There's no place where God is not, and so we fully step into the experience of that love, of that caring. And it is from this place that I speak a word for all of the prayer requests that have been placed into our ministry of prayer. I just bless every person who wrote a prayer and every person who that prayer is about, knowing that the love of the divine is available to all. And I lift up every person who's struggling, who is experiencing pain and suffering. For I know that my willingness to be present is what heals. And so it is with a grateful heart and so much love that I simply place this word into universal law, that I claim it is complete, it is done, it is already worked upon by the law that always says yes. Yes, my beloveds, it is already done. And so with great gratitude, we simply let it be. I call it good and very, very good. And so it is.